welcome back to another reaction video. Today we're going to be doing an actual YouTuber that I am used to seeing actually, Casual Geographic, put out a new video. I believe it's called The Good, the Bad, and the disrespectful ways animals protect themselves. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this, as his videos are all, really good. And I hope you'll react along with me as I'm seeing this video for the first time as well. Once again, I'll have the link in the description to the original video so that you can go and support the creator and everything. Alright, let's get to the video.
The following video may disgust you. The following video may offend you. The following video was sponsored by NordVPN. That guy deserves an award. A Darwin Award. You remember that video I made on animals that got absolutely screwed by nature? Well, if I would have known just how bad this guy has it, not that guy, him, I definitely would have RSVP'd a spot for it. That is a dwarf sperm whale. If you've never heard of them before, there's a pretty good and slightly depressing reason. This pint-sized porpoise typically measures at 7 to 9 feet long, can weigh in at 600 pounds. And while that would make him a tank as a human, for an animal with whale in its name, it's pretty travel size. And that's what makes it the light work of the ocean. The thing is, being plus size works for whales since they're too massive for anything to be a legitimate threat to them. Anything that isn't a malicious equality dolphin. And being small for a whale makes you the perfect candidate to be an orca's source of protein. Dwarf sperm whales also regularly get meal prepped by great white sharks, and can even get griefed by a bold enough fur seal. With the ocean being the gauntlet of disrespect it so often is, it almost makes sense when dwarf sperm whales beach themselves. That and the fact that with its sonar not working in shallow water, the whale basically goes blind and as a result panics. So much so that they often factory reset themselves to heart failure. And this kind of thing happens a lot more than you'd expect, to the point where most of what we know about this dwarf whale comes from the individuals that beach themselves. And obviously nature felt bad for this eternally screwed cetacean since nature gave it a secret weapon. Dwarf sperm whales are equipped with a sac near its anus filled with reddish brown fluid that I've been told looks a lot like chocolate syrup. So far no one's been brave enough to see if it tastes as good. When this pressed porpoise feels threatened, it'll release its Hershey flavored contingency plan the same way a squid might do with ink. The idea being to confuse a predator long enough to escape to get put on a shirt another day. What looks like a blue whale's time of the month is actually a dwarf whale matrix ducking death. Although admittedly it doesn't take you very far if you proceed to skull check a rock in the process. In a world where death can be waiting at every corner, animals had to get creative to live long enough to make more of themselves. You can be a turtle and carry your personal panic room on your back. You can equip yourself with spines and quills to make sure if you go down, you don't go down alone. And if you're a predator, staying camouflage can ensure your victims never see you coming. Did you see him? I hope so, because he sees you. Being able to go real life incognito is important in the wild, but just as important on the internet with your precious data. Which is why NordVPN creates an encrypted tunnel for data and protects your identity by hiding your IP address. Hiding my IP address is exactly what I needed considering what I had to do to my search history for certain parts of this video. You'll know it when you see it. NordVPN allows you to connect to one of thousands of different servers in up to 60 different countries. For example, if you wanted to watch SpongeBob, before it became televised ADHD, if you can't watch it in your country, just know Australia and Netflix got you. Also, Nord servers are super fast, so you never have to feel like you're choosing security over speed. And with NordVPN's threat protection, you can be safe from ads, trackers, and malware. So to protect your data, get the most out of your streaming service, and to make sure I get paid, go to nordvpn.com/casualgeographic to cop a huge discount for a limited time. And with NordVPN's money-back guarantee, it's basically risk-free. Unfortunately, risk-free is something that applies to zero aspect of this whale's way of life. And when you play the game of life on veteran difficulty just by playing it in the ocean, you have no choice but to get creative. Just ask the hagfish, one of the most vile things in the sea. The hagfish diet consists of all the things society would normally bury or flush down the toilet. And that can involve burrowing itself into a rotting and possibly diseased corpse and eating its way out. Anything with a meal plan like that probably isn't something you should think about eating yourself. Unfortunately, most fish don't have a thought process, which is why when stressed and pressed, the hagfish will produce a bucket's worth of slime as self-defense. The end game to trying a hagfish is the very real possibility of suffocating as the slime clogs the gills, and the fish that thought it scored easy calories now chokes to a flatline. In 2017, a truck carrying hagfish crashed, and the hags squirted enough slime to turn the highway into final destination. It's like a Mario Kart item that just slipped past the sensors. Pun intended. And for those of you questioning what a gang of goo guppies was even doing on a truck, well, apparently the hagfish is a delicacy in some places. He's a stronger person than me, that's for sure. Don't bother asking why, no answer is satisfying enough. People also eat cucumbers. And I don't just mean the underage pickle. I'm talking about the sea cucumber. The sea cucumber is an echinoderm related to starfish and sea urchins, but it looks like it identifies as something you'd wipe off the bottom of your shoe. And ironically, that's exactly the kind of stuff they eat. This bottom feeder inhales everything from the dead, diseased, and decaying to the stuff that's already passed through another animal's system. Yeah, bottom feeder. That's a double meaning for you. And like the hagfish, the sea cucumber has some of the weirdest forms of self-defense you'll ever see. Exhibit A, anal teeth. You didn't think you were going to hear those words when you woke up today, but honey, it's happening. And it is exactly what it sounds like. And it's all because some species of fish like the pearlfish will use the sea cucumber as a protective bunker. And they do this by turning its south exit into a double-lane highway. And if a money-shooting slime snake or a butt-blasting baby whale didn't demonetize me, this definitely did it. So to keep squatters from breaking in through the back door, many sea cucumbers have anal teeth designed to keep prostate pokers away. And it's not the only defense they have. Most predators will ignore the sea cucumber as a dinner option thanks to the many forms of toxin they have. And when threatened, the sea cucumber will release some of the poison out its lower half as an appetizer. And somehow that's not the weirdest thing that can come out of a cucumber. Because as a last resort in the face of certain death, the sea cucumber will respond by ejecting its internal organs fresh out of its anus in a display that's guaranteed to traumatize any predator that messed around and as a result found out. And like its cousin the starfish, the sea cucumber has the ability to regenerate any organs it negotiated in the heat of battle. And best believe they abuse it. You've never seen an animal weaponize its poop chute like a sea cucumber. Actually, you have. If you've seen the honey badger, you can find this felony ferret's face on the Mount Rushmore of disrespect. And one of the reasons is because it too has a secret weapon. Because when a honey badger wants to make a scene, it'll flip its anal pouch inside out. It's amazing how many times a body part can come up in one video. This Oreo weasel reversing its anus and the smell that comes with it is about as bad as you'd expect. Not only is it suffocating enough to ward off predators, it's also believed to temporarily paralyze attacking bees long enough for this black air force to make off with our honey and larvae. So when I call this a steroid skunk, I'm not very far off. A lot of things can come from an encounter with a honey badger, but a Febreze of liquid booty to the nose probably wasn't something you'd expect. Because a honey badger is just a four-legged assault on all five senses. Same way a vulture's a violation to the nasal order. Vultures get clout off eating all the things nobody else in nature wants to deal with. You know, I'm sensing a theme here. Vulture stomach acid is so corrosive that these corpse pigeons can eat the most dangerous substances in the world and go back for seconds. Botulism, cholera, and anthrax would all turn any other scavenger into a skeleton, but vultures are able to handle it. For reference, botulism is a toxin that attacks the nerves and can lead to difficulty breathing, muscle paralysis, and permanent sleep mode. And it only takes the smallest amount to put you in a coffin. But the nervous system of the vulture is able to eat botulism like candy. Vultures actually make the world a better place by eating all the nastiness other animals would die trying. But it makes how they defend themselves even worse. If anything gets too close to a vulture's nest, it'll respond by vomiting half-digested sewer-smelling foulness I can't even imagine. Or maybe I just don't want to. Normally they do this only as a distraction. But if any of the violation marinating inside them gets in your face and eyes, it's not going to be a good time to be alive. And there's never a good time to be around this bird for the same reason. Now I can confidently say I've made it abundantly clear that I don't approve of anything this morally bankrupt graveyard goose stands for. If Happy Feet were Shawshank Redemption, these birds would have been the sisters. That might be a dated reference, but considering what I'm referencing, maybe it's a good thing if you don't get it. Something about their eyes steals the joy from my soul. Petrels are the freeze-dried vultures of the southern seas. Its diet of the dead, decaying, and downright disgusting is why sailors also nicknamed it the Stinker. And as you can probably guess, nesting petrels will defend themselves by projectile vomiting the contents of its stomach. And unlike vultures who do it as a distraction, petrels will actively aim their spray at the face and eye, since not only can it blind a potential predator, it's so acidic it can eat away at the waterproof coating of feathers. Doing that to a bird that has to swim for a living is like clipping the wings off a Cessna. It's a dick move of the highest order. And if you take a petrel's stomach oils to the face, people several miles downwind will be able to smell how your day is going. And while the smell does wear off, the emotional scars of witnessing what this lizard does last way longer. The horned lizard is a fearsome, intimidating dinosaur that time left behind. Or at least it would be, if he wasn't only 4 inches long. And there's nothing wrong with that, it's perfectly average, and I'm sure he has a great personality anyway. But personality doesn't save him from basically being a dinner roll to threats like wildcats, coyotes, and occasionally wolves. So when its life is in danger, the horned lizard does something so drastic that I'm gonna go ahead and put this right here to give you time to mentally prepare yourself.
Graphic.
The lizard takes aim and shoots blood right out its eye. And while the coyote takes some time to reevaluate his life choices and whether or not he should get tested, the bloody lizard slips away to become someone else's life lesson. Not only does squirting its own Kool-Aid confuse mammalian predators, it also tastes bad enough to make them decide it's not worth the calories. But as for why it has to be out of their eyes, I do not know. Why not? But honestly, if a pupil period's how you want to live your life, who am I to judge? And even though you'd expect this bloodlusting lizard to be an Australian citizen, it's actually found in the American Southwest. For your daily dose of Australian nonsense, look no further than the Stropherus gecko. Similar to the horned lizard, this tiny gecko would normally be free calories for any predatory bird that happens to snatch it up. But of course, this gecko has a comeback. Despite what I'm about to tell you, I can assure you that wasn't a pun. Instead of blood, the gecko releases a foul-smelling, bitter-tasting fluid from its tail. And like with the lizard's blood, the gecko's money shot is rank enough to convince most birds not to eat it. Alternatively, mixing the fluid with ammonia produces a highly flammable substance, and my condolences to the family of whoever had to find that out. These geckos are so confident in their secret weapon that they'll often bask in the sun in shrubberies in broad daylight in clear view of predators. Most geckos avoid conflict by being nocturnal, so this one exposing itself while also having no venom or spines means you're looking at a cocky lizard, especially since even though it is foul tasting, the fluid by itself is technically harmless, which you can't say about the tomato frog. In the wild, this frog is only found in one place, and that's on the island of Madagascar. Unfortunately, that means it also shares an area code with over 80 different species of snakes, most of which have no problem putting a frog named after a fruit on a grocery list. But of course, this bite-sized frog ain't the easy lick it looks like. When a hungry snake on the hunt starts looking at this frog the wrong way, it'll puff itself up and inflate to make itself look as intimidating as possible. If that and the fact that this frog shares a color scheme with a red flag doesn't work, it moves on to plan B. As soon as a snake makes contact, the frog releases a sticky, glue-like substance from just under its skin. Not only is the glue an assault on the tongue, it also irritates the inside of the snake's mouth. And if the snake's too stubborn to let go, it can end up getting its jaws gummed together for a couple days. Long enough for the snake to tell his friends what happened. But it's not just snakes that can get a life lesson. A lot of people will keep this affiliated Kermit as a pet, which is fine, except if you handle them for too long or stress them out in any way, you can end up getting glued, and occasionally it can trigger an allergic reaction in people. It won't kill you, but it's why owners are advised not to try and handle this frog. And for mental health reasons, you shouldn't handle the hairy frog either. It got its name from the hair-like structures that grows on males, but the reason for that is actually surprisingly wholesome. Those structures help the frog absorb more oxygen and allows him to spend more time underwater to look after his family of eggs. But it's also known as the wolverine or horror frog, and the backstory for that is a lot less wholesome. Because when this Central African frog chooses violence, it'll purposely break the bones in his toes, force them through the skin, and then use them as DIY claws. Imagine going to fight a guy and he gives himself an open fracture and then tries to slash you with it. The bones do heal and the tissues eventually regenerate, but the mental image it inflicts on anyone involved stays with them for life. Claws themselves might not look that bad, but if we solve conflicts by Anderson Silvaing ourselves, world peace would be our only option. If you don't get that reference, you're one of the lucky ones. But if snapping your own bones and using them as weapons wasn't metal enough, one ant somehow managed to take it a step further. Because when the Malaysian Calabasas saundersy colony is under attack, as a last resort, a soldier ant will violently contract its abdomen until two poison-filled glands explode. These ants full-on kamikaze themselves, while also taking out any enemies caught in the toxic blast radius. The glue is acidic, corrosive, and strong enough to immobilize attacking ants. And while turning itself into a tactical puts the soldier out of commission, its sacrifice can possibly save its entire colony. Because if the invading ant colony wins, they'll murk the queen, steal all the food, and even capture some of the soldiers from the losing side and keep them as slaves. Which is why if it gets to that point, this ant will self-destruct for the good of its colony. But also why if ants were human-sized with nuclear weapons, they'd probably end all life on Earth in a week. And that's gonna do it for this video. For more consistent content and daily uploads, be sure to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. And to watch these videos before I post them, consider becoming a patron on Patreon. And if you haven't pre-ordered my new book yet, go ahead and do that for me too. There's also an audiobook, so short attention span or being illiterate isn't an excuse. Shameless plug aside, be sure to drink water, hug your mother, be glad you weren't born an ant, and I'll see you in the next one.
I was trying so hard not to laugh this whole video. So, the title was perfect. Like, I don't think I needed to see some of that. Like, I could have gone my whole life without seeing some of the animals that was featured in this, or at least what they do to, like, I guess, survive the day to day. I'm so grateful I am not that low on the food chain. Like, my goodness. But yeah, I think I'm gonna need a lot of wholesome after all that. There's some things in there that will probably end up in my nightmares. And other than that, it was a great video. So don't forget to like, subscribe, check out Casual Geographic. He's a really great YouTuber. And thank you for reacting with me.